Forward Vancouver Literary Festival. We are at UBC Robson Square this morning, and we're joined by Elder Virginia George of Tsleil-Waututh First Nation, and she's going to be giving our welcome this morning.
Good morning. I'd like to welcome, first I'd like to say welcome to the unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh Nation. And I thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. We're so grateful to be here on your territories, and thank you for joining us this morning. Thank you. And we're very grateful to be joined today by Phyllis Webstad. Thank you. So if you want to take a seat just next to Tedford. Thank you so much. Your microphone is just right there. Wonderful. So thank you all for joining us. We're very fortunate to be joined today with Phyllis Webstad to share about her book, Every Child Matters. And I'm just going to share with you some of the amazing sponsors that help make this day possible. The Canada Arts Council, the Canada Heritage Fund, BC Gaming, Creative BC, the City of Vancouver, DBVIA, the Hamber Foundation, the Joseph Walks Foundation, the Asian Canadian Writers Workshop, Seawill, Payson Associates, the Federation of BC Writers, the League of Canadian Poets, the Writers Union of Canada. For a full list of our sponsors, please visit our website. Without you, this free festival could not happen. If you haven't already, please consider making a donation via our website, and we're just very grateful to be able to have this conversation today and to be joined by Phyllis Webstad, the founder of the Orange Short Movement and author, and just an amazing human, and we're just so grateful. I'm Alison Tedford Seaweed. I'm a member of the Kwakiutl First Nation of Nakwada ancestry. My traditional name is Tlaqua Gila Okwa. And I'm just very grateful to be here and being able to host Phyllis today. Phyllis, I would love for you to introduce yourself in the way that you're most comfortable, and so that you can get to meet some people who might not necessarily have had the opportunity. We're welcoming all sorts of people on our live stream this morning, and just very grateful to be able to be in conversation.
Yeah. Wade Huhuedip, Phyllis Webstad Rensquest. I'm going to be looking there because that's where they are, right? And there's a few people here. So Wade Huhuedip, Phyllis Webstad Rensquest, Stracham Chatlum Slakwen. Hello to everyone watching and everyone here today. I'm Phyllis Webstad. I'm from the Kenno Creek, Dog Creek First Nation. I am Shawetmch. My mother is Shawetmch, and my father is Scottish. Our two reserves are about an hour and a half southwest of Williams Lake in Shawetmch-Uluch, the land of the Shuswap people. We skirt the Fraser River, and of course the Fraser River flows into the Pacific Ocean. And it takes about an hour and a half to get to our reserves from Williams Lake. And thank you to Elder Virginia George for the welcome to your territory, Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh. So thank you for allowing me to be on your territory and to be here today to speak. And this year is the 10th year of Orange Shirt Day. It started in 2013 in Williams Lake. Originally, it was just for our area, the Caribou Chilcotin of central British Columbia, and it hit Facebook and went viral. So the very first year, Orange Shirt Day went viral, and it's all over the world now. And the TRC came to Williams Lake in May of 2013. So we were doing a couple of press events in April because we wanted people to know, Indigenous obviously, but we wanted people to know, the non-Indigenous, that they were invited to come and hear the truths of survivors. We were having a Monday to Friday event, and then the weekend was a St. Joseph Mission Indian Residential School reunion. And we wanted the churches, the RCMP, the schools, the businesses, everybody to know they were welcome to everything, the full 7 days, to come and hear the truths of survivors and participate. So that's how I was able to tell my orange shirt story for the first time, because I was the survivor representative, and I didn't do a lot of public speaking back then, and I didn't know what I was going to talk about. So it's not something that we talked about a lot in our family. My mom didn't know that I went to the mission, as we called it, until 2007, when we were being given money by the federal government. So we got 10,000 for the first year and 3,000 for each additional year. And that's the first time my mother found out that I had gone. So I told my orange shirt story about how I lived with my grandmother on the Dog Creek Reserve until I was 10. So I'm third generation Indian residential school survivor. 3 generations of our family attended St. Joseph Indian Residential School, which is about 20 minutes out of Williams Lake. So my granny was the first generation. All of her 10 children, including my mother, attended. Granny's eldest grandchild. I'm Granny's second eldest grandchild. And so I lived with Granny, and I'd always questioned, why did she send me? Because she wouldn't have been put in jail, like my grandfather often was, for not sending the children or taking them to the hills to hide them. So I, as children often do, I took responsibility and I blamed myself. It's like, oh, I must have decided to go there. I was a new 6-year-old in 1973. And then when my grandson turned 6, I was looking at him, it's like, there's no way a 6-year-old could make that decision. So what I have come to know is and understand is Granny did what she had always done. She had gotten her 10 children ready, her eldest grandchild. So when I turned 6, she brought me to town and to buy something new to wear. Even though she knew it would be taken, she always wanted us to be presented in the best possible way. We always had to be like, have a bath by the stove. We didn't have electricity. We had an outhouse, but we always had to be clean. And so we went to town, and as a new 6-year-old, I'm a big girl now, it's time to go to school. And it was 73, so it's that kind of that crazy hippie psychedelic time with all the bright colors. And so I chose a bright, shiny orange shirt. It's kind of like that Nemo orange is what I could best describe it. And had a collar and had like a lace in the front with the lace hanging down, like a shoelace. And of course, my shirt was taken. Everybody's clothes got taken when we got there. And we were made to take a shower. I'd never seen water coming out of the walls before. Like, we were just freaking as little kids, like, because most of us came from places where there was no electricity. And to go and see water coming out of the walls, and we were naked, and yeah, it wasn't a very good scene. And I don't remember it, but some say that they put that white stuff on us to kill any bugs or whatever that they figured we might have had, but that I don't remember. But I'm often asked by when I do talks to the little kids, my talks differ obviously, but the elementary, they always want to know, how did it feel? And I tell them, you know what it's like when you go to the mall or you go to the grocery store and you're this little kid and you lose track of your parent or your caregiver, or you're there with your cousin, your auntie, or whoever, and you lose track of them and they're gone and you're there by yourself. You just freeze and just instant terror. So I told him that's what it was like. It was pee your pants terror. Like, we probably peed our pants. We were just so terrified. So that's what I share with the little ones. And so I lived with Granny. Granny didn't have a job like we do today for money, 9 to 5 sort of thing. She tanned moose hides and deer hides and would make gloves, vests, and buckskin coats, and she would beat it and she would sell it at the Dock Creek General Store and for money. And that's probably how my orange shirt was paid for when we went to town. We had a cellar. Granny had 3 gardens in the area of our house. The Dock Creek in Shawapmachjeen or Shuswap is called Chatstam, which is deep valley. So in the Caribou Chilcotin, we have a lot of ranches and cowboys and horses and cows. So usually on reserves in the Caribou Chilcotin, there's almost always a ranch right next to the reserve. So in Chatstam, there's ranch, then Chatstam, and then ranch again. So we were put in the middle of the most like hillside, and where the ranches got the prime land, to do their hay and whatever they do. And but we made the best of it. Granny had 3 gardens in the area, and we had a cellar. So if you dig, I don't know what the depth is, into the earth to a certain level, and you put a structure over it, you can put your vegetables and dried meat and whatever in there and it won't freeze, like even in the wintertime. So that was our fridge, because we didn't have a fridge. And when my first book was being illustrated, because there was a birthday scene and Granny was handing me the cake and my cousin and my uncle were there and there was a fridge. He drew a fridge. I was like, no, we didn't have a fridge. So we had to erase that. And so what else was going on we didn't have vehicles, like 1 or 2 people maybe had, not like today we have, 2, 3, maybe 4 cars in our driveway. But we were wagons and horses. Like it was, I just, this past Stampede, there's a guy in Chilcotin territory, Sammy Stump. He has a wagon. It's painted orange and it has in black letters, "Every Child Matters," and it's their 2nd annual. They come in for the Stampede on the wagon, and I thought I'm going to go and support him. And I was just taking video and just happy tears, right? Because that's my happy place. The smell of the horse poo and just the clanging of the harnesses and stuff. And it's like, that was my world. That was the first thing that I remember as a kid. And anyway, I'm digressing. And so home with Granny, gardening. We would go berry picking and dry the berries and maybe canning if we had jars. drying fish. We would spend summers down at the river. Granny was the youngest of 10, so her siblings, we would all meet at the river and dry fish. And so we had fish for breakfast, fish for lunch, fish for dinner. And it was great. And so that was what it was like before going to the residential school. And I sit on the Survivor Circle for the National Center for Truth and Reconciliation. And they teach me so much, the survivors. And what the one survivor said is she had a life before and a life after. And what we're talking about is 1 year, for me, 1 year of my life being at the residential school. So I had a life before, then there was residential school, then I had a life after. So that really made sense to me. And so during that, so getting at the mission, getting my shirt taken, and just realizing that I couldn't go home. Like that was for a new 6-year-old to not, like, even if somebody explained, I wouldn't have understood, I don't think. And maybe somebody did explain, I don't remember, and I learned this is a common trait for survivors. My aunt, because my aunt, my mom's sister, took me at 10 years old, and she talks about this as well. So, and it's called disassociation. I've learned that's the name for it, because when children are in situations where we can't get out, we don't, we're kids, we're stuck in this situation, whatever it is, and we can't do anything about it. We learn disassociation, and our spirit can leave, can go wherever we want. So even up till, the age of 14, I used to get excited to go to bed because I just wanted to take off. And that's where being with Granny was so important. And I could go to the river, I could go back to Granny's house, to the chickens, to the horses, to the just being at home. And I could just go there and, wake up in the morning in the same situation. But at nighttime, I remember being excited about bedtime because I could go. And my aunt talks about that as well. Learning words to these stuff that happened. And I never knew there was a word for it. And so being there for a year, and in my book, I say I was there for 300 sleeps, which is basically a school year. So when I talk to kids, that's what I tell them. And I ask them, who's had a sleepover? Anybody have a sleepover? Aren't sleepovers fun? And they're like, yeah, I stayed with my cousins, my omas, or, whatever their family names are. And then I tell them, I'm here to tell you a story of when I had a sleepover for 300 sleeps. And they're usually like, whoa, wow. They can't imagine. And so I'm kind of jumping all over, but just being there, and then the impact that had on the rest of my life. And we talk about intergenerational impacts. And one of them, what I say is life can be understood backward, but must be lived forward. So one of the things that I've come to understand, thanks to my aunt that raised me, was Granny had 10 children, and she had to let her children go. There was no choice in the matter. It was law. If you didn't, they would come and arrest you, as my grandfather often was. And so Granny And I felt this at 5 years old because I used to, my healing journey started in 1994. And I used to always cry and feel sorry for myself. Woe is me. Nobody loves me. I didn't have a mom and a dad. I just didn't feel welcome on this earth. I didn't feel I had a right to step on the earth or breathe the air. Like I didn't belong here. And so my aunt telling me about how, and they felt it as well, how Granny was good with babies. I witnessed it with my own son. The singing, like she would sing and hold and rock and she would make baskets for all the new babies. But at about the age of 5 is what I experienced it. I didn't have the words or why, but she would stop all of that. No more lap, no more hugging or talking. And that's what I felt. But I learned from my aunt, there was a couple of reasons for her doing that she had no choice but to give up her children. So she had to prepare her heart to lose them. At 6 years old, soon they would be taken away, and there's not a darn thing she could do about it. So she had to prepare herself for them to be taken. And the other is that I don't know if she was consciously doing it, preparing us to be in an environment where we did not matter. And that's where Every Child Matters comes from. Because when I was there, we could be crying, we could be sick, we could be hungry, lonely, sad, scared. There wasn't an adult to come and make it better. 5 and 6-year-olds should not be comforting each other. And that's what was happening. And so when I first told my story, we were starting Orange Shirt Day. We thought we needed a slogan to go along with Orange Shirt Day. And so we chose Every Child Matters originally because of that. But those that went to these so-called schools are adults and elders now, but they were children when they were at these so-called schools. They mattered, and they still do. And the ones that never came home, they mattered. And in my book, Every Child Matters, I talk about how when I present, I tell that story and I say, the Orange Shirt Society is a society of reconciliation. And so no matter what color of the medicine wheel you are, every child matters in the past, the present, and the future. And so that's where it started from, and it just progressed. And from the very beginning, this whole orange shirt movement, as I've heard it called, has been divinely guided. It's like the creator is making all this happen, our ancestors. And for whatever reason, my story has been chosen. And I'm doing my best to show up and to keep the message going. Because I worked a full-time job until 2019. So 2013 to 2019, I worked for the Williams Lake First Nation, their development corporation, at the Chief William gas bar. So if anybody goes by Williams Lake, there's a gas station there. That's where I worked until April of 2019. So a little under 5 years. But I was getting really burnt out doing orange shirt stuff and working full time. And I had to make a decision because it was growing. From the very beginning, we have never had the capacity to adequately respond to what's happening. There's 4 of us in the office, and we have a board member that is helping us. That's it, across Canada. And we're not government funded. We rely on shirt sales and donations and stuff. So I decided I needed to do this full time because I was seeing things that I didn't like, and I seen what was happening, and I needed to insert myself with what was happening because it has a life of its own. It still does. I'll never know everything that's going on. So I thought if, because some people don't even know that I'm alive. Sometimes when I travel, I get introduced as the real Phyllis Webstad. I'm real, I'm here. Or people think, I died 100 years ago, that this is such ancient history that, this is about somebody that this happened to years ago. And so we opened an office in Williams Lake in April of 2019, so just a little over 4 years ago. We had incorporated the Orange Shirt Society as a nonprofit in 2015, but we didn't have an office or anything. We had a board of directors, and so I became the first staff member in 2019, and I found some funds to hire my cousin Sarah to be in the office to help. And then To Come Loops 215 hit, and it just opened the hearts and minds of the world, basically, to that this was serious stuff, and this is a part of Canadian history. It's not just Indigenous history. And we have and still have a lot of support. And so we're working on our policies and our governance and our ways of operating so that we can be more functional and ready, maybe if the government ever thinks that we're worthy of government funding, that we'll have all that in place. And Indigenous led, of course, that's very important. And so I have 5 books now, with huge thanks to my publisher who is here, sitting by Elder Virginia, Teddy Anderson with Medicine Wheel Publishing. And there's a bit of a story about Teddy and I. He is adopted Tlingit and was is, I guess, still a hoop dancer. And he was in Quesnel, just north of Williams Lake, and I was telling a longtime friend of ours, Holly Garvin, that I wanted to publish my story, but I have no money to do anything. And anyway, I tried different things and tried to, maybe self-publish, but you need like $20,000, and I don't have that kind of money. So once Holly said, contact Teddy. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, whatever. Yeah. And then I see her again. She's like, contact Teddy, talk to him. He has a book. He knows how to do these things. So I sent him an email, and I sent him an outline, like saying who I was and what was happening, and kind of an outline for the book. And it's like, oh, P.S., I have no money. And but we figured it out. And his company, Medicine Wheel Publishing, is out of Victoria. Helps Indigenous writers publish books. 2 of my books have curriculum that go with them for the schools, and there's out in the foyer. They have a booth, and so with thanks to Teddy, my story has been able to get out, and we've so my first one was the Orange Shirt story, because I would be asked to talk in front of the elementary and going there with just me it's hard to talk to the little ones. And so I thought if I have a picture, I can show them and tell them what happened. And so that was the motivation for the first book. Then the second was Phyllis's orange shirt. So a lot of the illustrations are the same. The nuns and the crying were taken out of that one though. And it rhymed. So it's the same story, but it rhymes. And then when I'd be asked to go into high school classrooms, I'd come in with my, my orange shirt story. And, these are high school students. They didn't take too kindly with this, this grade 2 book, but I would show it to them anyway to tell the story. And they always wanted to know more. They wanted to know, did I witness anybody die? Did I try to run away? Did I ever get burnt? Like, they're learning things in school about residential school, and they wanted to know more than my 1-year experience could tell them. I always say my experience was a walk in the park compared to Granny and my mom and my aunts and my uncles. And so that was the motivation for Beyond the Orange Shirt story. I thought if I get my mom to tell some of her story, because I was always asked in the early days by teachers, the children are asking, how come you don't talk about your mom? What about your dad? And I didn't know how to answer that. I wouldn't answer those emails because I didn't know what to say. And it wasn't until we were evacuated in 2017, not too long ago, because of fires, we were evacuated to Kamloops, and I had the opportunity to ask Mom. I told her the kids are asking, this is 4 years after Orange Shirt Day started. They're asking why I don't have you in my story, and I don't know what to tell them. So she had this, we were in my Jeep driving, and she just had this ugly cry. And I just let her cry, driving around Kamloops. And then she told me the story about how she only had grade 10. She was there for 10 years. And Williams Lake, when I was born in 67, Indigenous women were being murdered. She had had a friend be murdered in April of 67. So never mind trying to get a job in Williams Lake. Like not even a secretary or like anything. And we weren't even allowed in the white man restaurants. I always wonder why we like Chinese food. And so only the Chinese allowed us in their restaurants. And so that's the kind of environment that it was. And so Mom said she had to leave me with Granny on the reserve. Forced abandonment, because they said that she couldn't stay on the reserve and get welfare. Like, we weren't even asking for welfare. They had lived for thousands of years off the land, gardening, but no, you gotta leave. So they went to the canneries and to the orchards, whatever they could to survive. And Mom said she became an alcoholic. And I have her permission to say that. And so she's been sober now for more than half of her life, and she'll be 76 this year. So I believe it's 32 years she's been sober. And so her story isn't Beyond the Orange Shirt story. And then my eldest aunt, my cousin Sarah's mom, my aunt that raised me, my story, my grandmother, my great-grandmother. And because she didn't go to residential school, but she was born in 1880. The Indian Act came in 1876. So my great-grandmother came 4 years after the Indian Act. And she grew up being oppressed, having to ask a white man permission to leave the reserve, to go pick berries, to go to the river, to go visit family in other communities. So there's a bit about that in Beyond the Orange Shirt Story. And then my son, we talk about intergenerational impacts. Because of not getting that affection, I had my son really young. And I had him in grade 8 when I was 13.8 years old. So on my 14th birthday, my son was 4 months old. And my aunt that took me in just took him in as well. And because of her, he knows me as his mother. And I have 5 beautiful grandchildren. My son and his wife are the first in 5, well, my grandchildren are the first in 5 generations to be raised by their mother and their father under one roof. And so there's the future is bright. And so my son's, a bit of my son's story is in the Beyond the Orange Shirt Story. And then my 2 eldest grandchildren, the oldest just turned 19 in August and the youngest is 3. So the first 2, they have a section in the book as well. And there's curriculum for that as well. So that's in the schools across Canada, the high schools. And then we were, then COVID hit and we were wanting to do a board book and we weren't able to. So with Our Orange Hearts was the next one. And then now this one. So with this, I realized I didn't explain or have a book, Every Child Matters. And with what's going on with the slogan, we've applied for a trademark. We haven't been successful yet. We should have did it like back in 2014, but we didn't have money for that. And so now we're trying to prove that Every Child Matters belongs to the Orange Shirt Society. It goes with Orange Shirt Day. And I did a search online, 10 minutes. I found 10 countries in this world using Orange Shirt Day, stealing indigenous designs like from Vietnam and Morocco and all kinds of places. So I thought it's time to start reclaiming our slogan and hopefully be able to get a little bit of control. This is a Canadian trademark. We'll never get control internationally. But if we can deal with this in Canada, then maybe we can rely on people in Canada, their morality to help us with the international and to shut that down when it's happening. So this, it starts with how, for children, very simple, how before colonialism, we had our own songs, our own dances, we had our language, we had our families, and it's really easy to, for children to look at, like the smudge bowl and the feather, and so very simple. And then it goes into my experience of losing my shirt. And then along with that was we weren't allowed to sing or sing or dance our dances. Our culture was affected. Our families were broken. We weren't allowed to be who we were always. And so you see the smudge bowl in the pages is turned upside down and the drum stick is snapped in half, and like just for the kids to have an idea that, you know, this was affected. And then the book ends with how it's coming together. And I have a saying that's a Phyllis original is the oppression is lifting. Because I seen a Silk woman graduate in the Okanagan, and she didn't wear the cap and gown. She wore her outfit. She had a Cookham scarf on her head, and she danced up to get her degree. And when I seen that, I thought, the oppression is lifting. That's just beautiful to see that. And I hope I get to meet her someday. And I don't even know who she was. I just scrolling Facebook and, see things. And so the book ends with the hope for the future, that the family's coming together. We're starting to learn our drum songs and, tell our stories and dance. And last year we went over to Niagara Falls, and like my whole family, and I bought drums for my grandchildren, my 5 grandchildren, with cases. And when we got over there, though, they gave us more drums. So we had a lot of drums coming back. But recently I went to Kamloops where my son lives. And so my 3 youngest grandchildren are 7, 5, and 3. So usually when I get there, it's like my son is like, "Oh, mom's here." Like, because they always, then I watch the younger children as they go to Walmart or Costco or shop without the kids. And so I go downstairs because that's where the little ones stay. The older ones live upstairs. So I go downstairs, and the place is a mess because 3 little ones, you can't keep it. But the drums were just laying on the floor. And so I gathered them, even the little 3-year-old, and I said, "I want you guys to pick up your drums and find the sticks and put it back in the bag, because this is our culture. We need to respect our culture, and our drums need to be looked after. They can't be just laying on the ground." So they went and they picked up their drums, and like there's a lot of them, a lot of drums, because we got a lot. And so they started drumming, and even the little one, and they were drumming, and I was just sitting in a chair watching them. And then the oldest one is, "Grandma, sing." And I'm not a solo. Like I don't like I'm a backup when we're drumming. Like I'm in the background. Like I can belt a tune, but no solo. So I was just like, so I started singing. "O geld gook big nog en o kiusum gook. Way hi hi ya hey yo. Way hi." Just singing it brings me to tears because I haven't done it publicly before. I'm, I'm gonna get there one day, but that's what I mean. It's coming back, right? And but I'm belting out a tune for my grandchildren. I guess that's where it had to start. And they're drumming away, and they're just like, this is serious business. They're not being silly as they usually are, even the 3-year-old. And so you do it 4 times. I told my, stop, I've got to do this 4 times, because in the culture so I did it 4 times, and I've never done that before on my own. So I thought, hey, we can enter a talent contest somewhere. I can sit in the chair, and my grandchildren, they can drum and I can sing. And I know that's what's happening, like for me and my family. But this is happening all across Canada, where people are picking up the drums again and singing. And that song is actually from the Esquette, or the Alkali Lake First Nation, because that's the protocol, is you acknowledge who the song belongs to. And he was the one that officiated my husband and I's wedding. We had a traditional ceremony for the blanket and stuff. And I forget his name. I can see. But anyway, I'm just thankful to be here to share. And that's all that I do, is I storytell. I go and tell my orange shirt story, and kind of what it's like and what I've learned. And this year is the 10th year, also the 3rd National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. And it's Orange Shirt Day first. So if I could ask people to say Orange Shirt Day and National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, because I've seen it a lot that people think that Orange Shirt Day, is kicked to the curbside. That when they do their advertising, they say Every Child Matters, September 30th, National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. And I'm like, hey, Orange Shirt Day. So we're going to do a bit of media on that just to let people know, like, this is a grassroots. It started by people, by myself and others. And now that it's a government statutory holiday, doesn't mean that we don't exist, that Orange Shirt Day doesn't exist anymore. So yeah, so Gukshtem, thank you for being here and listening. And there's a few minutes for questions or comments if anybody wanted to. Yeah, so Gukshtem, thank you.
And it's great to see you again. I was fortunate to get to sit with Phyllis last year in my work with RBC, and it's great to see you. Sorry, my mic seems to cut out. Okay, you're back again. Thank you. Sorry about that. But I wondered, Phyllis, what are your hopes for Orange Shirt Day for the future? What do you hope this will look like as your children and grandchildren get older? How do you hope Orange Shirt Day will grow and develop?
Yeah, I often get asked that, and I would not have even thought 10 years later that Orange Shirt Day would be what it is today. The creator is in charge, the children, the ancestors. So I have no idea what they have in store for the next 10 years. And I know for me, I wouldn't mind to do international maybe a couple of times. And I don't really like the plane rides, though. I couldn't imagine being on the plane for like 17 hours or something. But and I really miss the elementary and the high school kids. I haven't done a lot of that lately. It's been more corporate and government, but I'm 56. I hope to be around for 20 plus more years to witness the change. The change has started already. And your guess is as good as mine what in 10 more years, what it'll be like. But God willing, I'll be here. And maybe we can have that discussion in 10 years.
I sure
Yeah.
hope so. What was it like when you first held your latest book in your hands? How did you feel when you got that printed copy? It was so beautifully illustrated.
Yeah, it was the ones that I got were the soft cover first. Or was there hardcover in there? I just remember the soft cover. Yeah. And but just to see it come to life, like the many meetings together and looking at the illustrations and suggesting changes, and can this be a little bit of that, or let's add this, take this out, darken this, lighten that kind of thing. It's a lot going back and forth, and but to see it come together is yeah, there's no feeling like it. And we're working on today is Orange Shirt Day, is the board book, because I have a 3-year-old granddaughter and she likes to touch. So we're going to do some touch on the book, and it's like be really simple to like turn the pages and touch and a few words. And so an introduction to the Orange Shirt story.
Oh, that's so wonderful. I love board books. And what was it like writing the story? Like, how did that process feel? You tell your story out loud, and when you share it in person, you can see people responding. But when it's just you and the paper or the computer, like, it's a very different experience. What was that like for you?
I'm lucky I have Teddy. Like, even with the first book, it was like a collaborative effort, I would say, because the idea was, okay, every child matters. That's what I wanted to be called. So how do we tell that story? And then talking back and forth with ideas about, because I never knew my history growing up. It wasn't talked about. Granny was too busy in the garden trying to feed us and survive. And in school, I didn't learn my history. I didn't know smallpox happened in my backyard along the Fraser River. And I didn't know, like, it was just a lot of learning of what it was like before everything was interrupted 150 some years ago. And so starting with that seemed appropriate, and then going into the story and then what happened, and yeah, so it was a collaborative effort. Like, it wasn't just me sitting down and this is what it's going to be like. And yeah.
That sounds really wonderful. It's so nice to have that partnership with a publisher and to feel really supported and empowered. So it sounds like you have a real friend in Teddy. How do you hope people will approach Orange Shirt Day this year? How do you hope they will spend the day, and what do you hope will happen this year?
This year being the 10th, I usually don't say celebrate Orange Shirt Day, but this year is truly a celebration. I usually say commemorate or observe, because it's the same as like Remembrance Day. You wouldn't say celebrate Remembrance Day. You would observe, or you would commemorate. So this year we're having a four-day event in Williams Lake. Like, we're having a health hypnotherapist. We're gonna have, I even hear, maybe I've been gone for 10 days and this is what happens. They might, or a week, we might even have bull riding. Yeah, we're gonna have wagon rides. We're gonna, on the 21st of September, we're having a Vancouver Canucks alumni game in Williams Lake. And Orange Shirt Day was created to honor survivors and their families and to remember those that never made it home. So it's the conversation that's important. And that's what I always want people to do on Orange Shirt Day, is to have conversation. And I always say maybe a little bit of healing as well for survivors and their families, that maybe they can find an ear and tell a little bit of their story if they have never done that, or maybe teach. If you're used to telling your story, find somebody that is willing to listen, because corporates and schools, they always want survivors to be telling their stories. So it's just the conversation, wearing orange, every child matters, and be together, share a meal together, and some conversation.
Thank you so much for being with us today, Phyllis. It means a lot to me. My grandpa went to St. Michael's Residential School, and my first job was actually working for Indian Residential Schools Resolution Canada with the team that was working on the claims that resulted from experiences. So, and I worked in the prison system as well, alongside many survivors. And so throughout my career, I've been hearing like many stories of people, of their experiences, and you have been just a somebody who inspires me a lot in the way that you so generously share your story and let us into your life. So thank you for that, Gila Kazla in my language. And thank you for being with us and for making this journey. I know it's been a busy week. Phyllis's book is, at the top of the charts for independent bookstores, #1 all over. It's taking off, and I'm just so glad that so many people are getting to learn the truth, because for so long other people told our stories and we didn't get to. And so you're doing that, and that's really special. And I'm grateful for people like Teddy who make that possible, and thankful that you were able to join us, and for your kind heart and warm smile and just beautiful spirit. Well, thank you so much, Phyllis. And thank you, everyone, for joining us from home and in person. I know there were a lot of folks from all over who were planning to tune in this morning, so I'm very grateful for everyone joining us on the live stream. For those who were able to make it in person, thank you. My son joined me today. And thank you to Elder Virginia George for starting us off in a good way, and for allowing us to gather on your territory, and for the Musqueam and Squamish people as well. So thank you, and thank you to the Word Vancouver team, for Executive Director Bonnie Nish, who programmed this event, and for Word Vancouver for all of the wonderful programming that we have in store for everybody today. So thank you so much, and have a wonderful day. And I hope you spend September 30th in a way that's meaningful, and that you tell people what you learned today and what you witnessed, and the heart and spirit behind this day, and make it really mean something for you and for the people in your circle. Well, thank you very much.